So I'll keep talking about the birth plan all the way through because it is very important. So what type of thing would you want in your birth plan? Well, when I meet with couples and I'm preparing them for birth, I always tell them to think about what they want to smell. Think about the scents that you want in the room. Do you like lavender? Do you like incense? Then anything that you feel that will help your birth to go the way that you want it, you think about what you want to smell. The next thing I tell them to think about is sight. What do you want to see? Now, it's very important that people who are birthing have a culturally appropriate birth. So some women might want to make altars. Some women might want their guru or a picture of their somebody that gives them inspiration. Gods and goddesses, for example. That might not be for you, which is completely fine. It might be a photograph of you when you were a baby. It might be a photograph of your mother. Just anything that you want to see. It could be colours, materials, whatever will make you feel safe, whatever will help you feel calm, whatever you can draw inspiration from, that's what you want to have in that room. That will be the room that you have chosen for your birth. Sound. What do you want to hear? So during your birth, you can create a playlist, for example, of all your favourite music. You may start with something more upbeat because you want to dance during the early stages of labour. And then that may gradually begin to be more peaceful music. Or it could even be silence. And even what you want to hear in terms of what you want people to say during your birth and what you don't want them to say. This is very important, and sound has a great impact on your birthing experience on an energetic level, as to a birth that goes really well and a birth that doesn't go so well because the sounds weren't correct. Taste. What do you want to taste? So in birth, a lot of women don't feel like eating a heavy meal, but you may fancy one. Some women like to suck on ice cubes to keep cool, and so they create ice cubes out of their favourite fruits. Fruits are so soothing, they're full of sugar, and they have liquids, so it keeps you hydrated. We're very fortunate that we can drink coconut water. This is full of electrolytes. It keeps the hydration replenished. So think about, what do you want to taste? And even the sight of fruits in the room around you is even good for the visual aspect as well as the tasting aspect. Things like chocolate, full of energy, and you might even want to make things and have things made for you. So you can be as creative as you like, and anything that just gives you that sense of nostalgia and makes you feel good during pregnancy, just make sure there's plenty of that on hand for you to eat. And don't be surprised if you just detest food and can't or won't eat anything neither. This is perfectly fine during labour too. Touch. What do you want to feel? Light touch is very beautiful during the labour process because it stimulates the C-tactile fibres that stimulate the endorphins, the pleasure endorphins, that really help to regulate that flow of oxytocin. And so light touch is very nice for the woman. Also sometimes a hand on the shoulder, because it's very reassuring, especially when you look at the woman and say her name, or you're just telling her to be calm. This is very reassuring. And then massage. Again, during the early stages of labour, the massage is nice high up the back. And the more pressure that's created as the baby moves down the birth canal, then the lower massage is better. And the more pressure that can be applied in the lower area around the tailbone, around the sacrum, and around the pelvic area in general. So thinking about whether you want to be touched, whether you don't want to be touched, who you want to be touched by. These are all very important, and you can have a plan and you can put them there and people will know, and then they might go to touch you and in that moment it doesn't feel right for you and you just say, no, not now, I don't feel like being touched, and that's fine too. So this is how I always begin with women, to get them thinking about their birth plan. And then all the other things tend to come once they've thought about it in these ways with the senses. And then you'd create your birth plan and list everything that you want in the stages. So stage 1, that's the time when your contractions are maybe 10 minutes apart, 15 minutes apart, and they're slowly getting more regular and more intense. During this period, apart from gently breathing through your contractions, what you may be doing is entering into conversation with people around you. Jokes are quite nice, listening to music, dancing, walking, all that sort of thing is beautiful in the early stages. And then it gets to a point where the contractions are more intense because they're closer together and they're lasting longer. And at this time, having a laugh is no longer required. You're more serious now because you're more focused, because the time is close for your baby to be born and to come. And so maybe at this point you want quiet, peace and quiet to allow you to focus in. You may want to listen to your hypnobirthing soundtrack, for example. You may only want light touch, and so it changes at that stage. So you think about all the things that you may or may not want to smell or see at this particular stage. And then the third stage is after. So once the baby has been born, the labour needs to continue. It needs to be completely undisturbed. If you were having dim lights before, don't turn the lights on once the baby's here. Allow the lights to be dim. The reason for this is because of the oxytocin. It's the same hormone that's required to birth your placenta, as well as the hormone that you use to birth your baby. And this is still part of the birthing process, and the birthing process is not complete until your placenta is born. So a lovely way to keep oxytocin flowing, of course, is skin to skin with your baby. Having your baby on the chest, allowing baby to feel its way down to find the breast, to begin stimulating the breast milk, the colostrum that's so important for your baby to drink in those first stages. Nipple stimulation helps the oxytocin. Light kisses and touches from your partner, hearing positive words of affirmation from partners and birth partners and doulas, hearing that you're loved and that you're safe and that you've done an amazing job. Eye contact with your baby, this facilitates in the bonding process. Eye contact with your partner, the lights remaining dim, maybe still quiet or soft music, or maybe no music. These are all so beautiful in order to allow the flow of oxytocin to keep coming in order to birth your placenta. And that's what's known as the third stage. So think about your birth plan in those stages as I've just described, and with the senses. And this will help to get your plan A off to a very good start. And then discussion with your doula about what you have chosen and why you have chosen it. And then the doula can help you to fill any gaps in your birth plan. For example, you may have chosen that daddy would cut the cord, but you weren't aware of delayed cord clamping and cutting. And so you can have a conversation with your doula how to do this, and then how to care for your placenta afterwards, and all that will become part of your plan as well. Whether you'll have a natural birth, and if you want any pain medication, what would that be? Homeopathics, for example, other herbal remedies. So there's a whole myriad of choices, and we can go into the birth plan in a lot more depth later on. But for now, it's telling you and showing you what a birth plan is, why it's good to actually have a birth plan, why it's good to make a birth plan. And of course, you have a plan A, everything that you want to go and all your intentions in that, and your plan B, what to do in the event of an emergency, and then if you're required to be transported to hospital. So this is the birth plan.